Hey folks, Dude here, and well, it's Knife Blog yet again, so it's time to basically, it's time to show off a knife. Today's knife is gonna be, well, it's not this one. This one is actually just a copy, but you know what, for illustrative purposes, this one will work just fine. This is a copy of the Almar Warrior. Now, case in point, you can see that this is not an actual true warrior, but it's a very good trainer. But even these knockoffs are very, very hard to source at this point. The major difference, of course, is the blade profile is going to be wrong. It's got a fuller groove. The serrations are incorrect. The handle and the butt cap are actually very close, very, very close. The guard is too thin, and it has this little screwy kind of a screwdriver thing going on at the point. That is not correct for this. But a quick history real quick on Almar himself. Almar was born in the United States, basically was Chinese, so his name was Alfred or Al, last name being Mar, M-A-R. He started a company after working for Gerber for a number of years. Unfortunately, he passed in 1992, Special Forces, very, very martial arts endeavor type of person, so he really knew what the heck he was doing with, any kind of hack and stabber. So that's pretty much where a lot of his designs came from. If you see a lot of the Gerbers with the aluminum handles, those are his. He actually started working for Gerber back in 1968 and quit in '79 to form his own company of Almar Knives. The knives were actually made in Seki City, Japan, and they were made by Mitsuboshi, Sakai, Fujita, Fukuta, and Hattori. So basically, good names, very good names. Now, what happens is the company's now being picked up, by another guy, basically somebody about controlling interest, and these went out of production a long-ass time ago. Now, the actual numbers on these things is, let me find that right page again, hang on one second. The actual numbers on this thing are such that it's 1095 carbon steel or ATS 34. I've also seen AUS 6 isn't possible. And blade length is 5 1/4. I think it's bigger than that. Handle length, they say, is 440. Overall length is 1050. Blade thickness is 532. I think that might actually be the specs for the Recat. So the R-E-K-A-T, or the Round Eye Knife and Tool, who was, that's the other thing, too. There's actually like a pissing match between Almar and a guy that worked with him to actually design this thing. And the guy was so snarky about it. He's like, okay, Asian guy's making the knives. I'm going to call it something snarky. I'm going to call it the Round Eye Knife and Tool Company, or Recat. Now, this is actually a pretty good representation. I'm going to take the sheath out of the way. But that is not the actual knife. The actual knife is going to be this guy. You can see right off the bat, the sheath is very, very different. It is very well constructed. It's covered in verdigris. I cleaned this up really good before I pulled it on camera, but the Recats actually do have serial number on this side. On this one is very, very, very small script. Hopefully you can see that. That little black line just says Seki Japan. But you can see that this actually is it actually is a true and distinct and absolutely real Almar knife. No doubt about it. You see the pictogram icon, that's his company thing. And you can even see that, very much off the bat, the serrations are very, very, very different. These are not intended to be utilized like an actual survival knife. What this thing's intended to be used for is the fact you have such a massive guard, you can't slide over into the blade. You have this huge pommel with reduced area with really, really serious striking ability. The handle is a kind of a nice, rubbery, squishy kind of guy. And this actually is intended in such a manner as this. You have somebody coming at you. Let's just say he's got another knife. Somebody coming at you. You do an arm lock. You dig in with this guy. And trust me, there's a reason why skin is moving. It's because this thing is bleeding sharp. I mean, I take this out, you can see a bunch of little indentures and indented areas. And the knife itself is, it actually feels very much like a very good, shorter version of a Japanese sword. Of course, it's got the sweep. Of course, it's got a very nicely ergonomically designed handle. The main thing is you could actually switch grips on this thing, and it doesn't feel altogether untoward. Actually, in a reverse ice pick, where you basically stabilize with your thumb or wrap your thumb around, it fits in either direction because you have these very prominent finger grooves. This is a very, very positive feeling knife. These things are never, ever, ever, ever cheap on eBay. It's at least a $400 or $500 knife. Even the knockoffs running about $60 at this point because they're just on, they're just on titanium. Now, the actual sheath itself is basically very nice because you have this exposed area here, that's a belt loop. Also in the back, that's an exposed area with a belt loop. So this thing is switchable in either orientation, or if you wish to, you can have it as a vertical sheath, you can have it as a horizontal sheath, or you could actually, because these are fairly wide and the belt's not going to be that wide, you can actually clock its orientation as to how you wish it to be pointing on your belt. Now, the sheaths themselves are very, very, very scarce. The knives are actually very, very hard to source. And it's one of those cases of, if you find one, you jump on it because they're not going to be around for very long. The actual thing that's kind of unusual, though, is, the Recats, being, the round eye knife and tools, are actually much harder to source than these guys. The Almars are actually a little bit more prevalent. And in some instances, the Recats will have a serial number. These won't have serial numbers. We'll just do some quick numbers here real quick. The Recat is actually a smaller, lighter configuration. They say it's actually a little bit better of a knife. I like the Almar, okay? I've always liked Almar knives. Overall, this thing is every bit from nose to butt. It's like 13 inches and change overall. I mean, it's pretty massive. Handle is going to be, I'm just going to do from edge of pommel to guard. It's about 6 inches. The blade length itself on this guy is going to be, and of course it's curved blade, so I'm going to be a little creative in my measurement, is about 7 1/4. Roughly about 7 1/4 from very, very bottom to very, very top. And it is this very deep-bellied slate false edge, which is sharpened. It's not very, very sharp, but it is a sharpened false edge. Hopefully you guys can see that. It actually does have a true double point, but it's a very, very stout profile of a knife. I mean, this thing is just, it's massive. I mean, you can see even the guard is massive. There's no way in the world for you to override these things and wind up riding down the serrations or wind up down the blade and really rip yourself, from butt to appetite. It's a very, very good design. Now, the actual knockoff, let me do a real quick, write up on that thing. I mean, comparatively, these two are almost exactly doppelgangers in terms of size. Let me pull it back in camera here. They're almost exactly doppelgangers in terms of size. The handle's a little bit shorter on the knockoff. The blade is very, very close in length overall. Profile is not exactly correct. It is not sharpened on the false edge like this guy. This is the one you want to get, obviously. But if you're going to be playing around, you want to have something to hang on your wall, and you don't want to mess up the really nice knife, get yourself one of the knockoffs. Now, the knockoff is obviously stamped very prominently. It is very, very prominently stamped. It says China, hello, and it is made by Fury. Model number 75574. And it's actually nice if I can actually read that in my camera for a change. But the actual construction on this, the handle feels a little fatter. It feels a little clunkier. The blade is a lot lighter in profile, which was very much like with the way the Recat was made. And they said the lighter blade actually made the thing livelier and, better for operation, and you could actually flick the thing around a little better and what have you. I like the Almar better. I'm sorry. I know the Recat guy was going on about like a lighter blade, a little smaller, a little thinner in profile, makes the thing more lively, and it seems to have a better balance. And yes, it does actually have a very prominently butt-heavy feel, as opposed to this one being, okay, let's just do point of balance here, okay? Point of balance on this is going to be probably, like just behind the guard. I mean, it's not feeling lively at all. It feels actually very balanced. It feels very balanced. It feels like a good, sturdy knife. I mean, there's no other way to explain this thing other than when you pick this thing up and you're playing with it. It just feels like a good, sturdy knife. There's no need to excuse the fact it's actually built like a brick crap house because that's what it is. I mean, that's just how they made the thing. Now, the other thing, too, is the knockoff, because it's lighter in construction, it is actually, because the pommel is, the pommel actually gives this thing pretty good balance. But the pommel, actually, on this one, it kind of makes it very butt-heavy. I mean, the point of balance of this is going to be probably like on this finger groove right here. So the point of balance is roughly about 2 inches behind the Almar. So this actually does have a very, very light and lively feel. I mean, it actually almost feels flippy. It almost feels, almost flimsy in comparison. But if it came right down to it, I would get the Almar right off the bat. I would get the Almar. Now, in terms of actually having something to play with, hang on your wall, and just have around just as a keepsake and what have you, definitely get yourself one of the knockoffs. But I'm going to give you guys the cool stuff today, and while this is very, very, very cool Because we're talking about the Almar Warrior. Good times. Love knives. Hopefully you guys do too. That's why you're tuning in to watch these videos. Alright, so I'm going to break off on this one. Now, if you guys do give me a good knife, basically I utilize in my videos, as always, you will get yourself a card from Hydroprint Services. The card will give you a 10% off to get your stuff hydroprinted and look amazing, like what I had done on my my Cav arms done in multicam. And I cannot tell you how cool that thing looks in person. Definitely give Scott a buzz, and you can get a hold of him at 863-797-4CAMO, 863-797-4CAMO, and also at, of course, his website, hydroprintservices.com. So keep the comments and keep the suggestions coming. If I use your idea, you get your 10% off. Good times, folks. I'm going to break off with this one. I don't keep these videos too terribly long, but sometimes I got to go with detail. Good times. I'm going to break off all this one, guys. Eat good, keep it a 10 ring, and knife goodness. Love, love, love. Love knives. See you guys.